sisters in crime, brothers-in-law around the world. Welcome to the Davitt Awards, the night of nights for Australian women's crime writing. My name is Tara Mitchell, and I'm Sisters in Crime Australia's Vice President. Tonight, the Davitt Awards celebrates their 21st birthday. They were first presented at She Kilda, Sisters in Crime 10th anniversary convention, which was held at St Kilda Town Hall in Melbourne, way back in 2001. In 2020, our plans for a big gala dinner were scuppered by the pandemic, and unfortunately this year it's been the same again. However, the big silver lining is that thanks to the miracles of modern technology, we can now present the Davitt Awards to a global audience. We now boast crime fans from New Zealand, Singapore, Indonesia, South Africa, Canada, the USA, the UK, France, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and even Russia. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And now I'd like to welcome our guest of honour, Debra Oswald. Debra is an award-winning playwright, screenwriter, and novelist who will be speaking to us from lockdown in Sydney. Shortly, Debra and I will be talking about her brilliant career for about 15 minutes before she presents the awards. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce the Davitt sponsor, Dr. Carolyn Beasley, Program Director and Senior Lecturer of Writing from Swinburne University of Technology.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Carolyn Beasley from Swinburne University. Swinburne is so very, very honoured to be able to support the incredible work of Sisters in Crime, of each of you and of the Davitt Awards. And this year sees an incredible range of unput-downable killer stories that will keep you up way into the night, so snuggle up and enjoy. And as I'm sure you know, Swinburne offers quite a few writing programs for those amongst you who wish to commit your own writerly crime, from TAFE professional writing and editing to bachelor's degrees in writing and literature to masters of writing run online, and of course to the traditional mentored research degrees like masters and PhD, in which you can write a novel or a set of short stories or create a podcast as part of your PhD. We teach on campus by Zoom and by discussion board according to whatever our world demands at the time. And we're always super excited to read your own killer stories and to help you get published. So thank you so much all for giving your voice to vibrant, diverse and hidden stories that surround us. And on that note, thanks to the unstoppable Carmel and the Sisters in Crime crew for putting on such an exciting and much needed online event. And again, thank you for letting us help keep Alan Davitt's spirit alive. And of course, for continuing to just work on your own work and keeping your own writing out there and flowing and getting published. So happy reading and writing, sisters.
Thanks, Carolyn, and thank you to Swinburne for all the support you provide to Sisters in Crime. Now let me properly introduce Debra. Debra Oswald is an Australian film writer. She's also worked in television, stage, radio and children's fiction. In 2008, her Stories in the Dark won Best Play in the New South Wales Premier's Literary Awards. She created and was head writer of the Channel 10 drama series Offspring, which is now on Netflix, for which she won the 2011 New South Wales Premier's Literary Award and the 2014 Actor Award for Best TV Screenplay. Her novel Useful was released in 2015, followed by her novel The Whole Bright Year in 2018, both published by Penguin Random House. Her other television credits include award-winning episodes of Police Rescue, Palace of Dreams, The Secret Life of Us, Sweet and Sour, and Bananas in Pyjamas. For younger readers, Debra has written 3 Aussie Bites books and 6 novels. She's been an onstage storyteller at Story Club, and earlier this year performed her one-woman show, Is There Something Wrong with That Lady? Earlier this year, her crime novel, The Family Doctor, was released and has gained her many new admirers, including the many crime fiction members amongst us at Sisters in Crime. Wow, so Deb, that is quite the CV.
I feel exhausted.
I know, I'm exhausted just reading. I don't know how you've gone just doing all of that work. It's incredible. So I'm very keen to find out how you first caught the writing bug. Can you tell us whether it was in school? Who were you encouraged by back then?
Well, I started out writing what I called novels when I was a little kid, 8 or 9, but I found that there was so much dialogue in my novels that I was exhausted trying to think up alternative words for said. Do you remember they were very down on us, we
Yes.
said? So at the same time I was starting to go to the theatre, my parents were taking me to the theatre, and I thought, this is what I can do. If I write plays, the characters can talk all they like. So that got me going. I started writing plays when I was at school and made my first professional income as a writer when I was 17 with a radio play. So I've never had a real job, really.
That's inspiring for a lot of us, I've got to say, not ever having a real job. So most of us, including myself, have really only got the Hollywood version of what it's like to write for TV. Is it really the crazy bunch of creatives sitting around in a windowless room, drinking way too much coffee and possibly other substances, bouncing ideas off each other? or is it a very different experience to that?
Look, there's all sorts of frustrations surrounding it to do with, projects languishing for a long time before they get made. I mean, Offspring sat 4 years rejected by everybody. And then there's all the production problems, like the budget is too small or it rains and you have to cancel the scene you were going to shoot. There's all that stuff. But the best part of it is exactly the scene that you described. It's sitting in a writer's room, and if you're lucky enough to have really good colleagues, as I have, to sit in a room with people talking about characters that you care about and making up story and making each other laugh and making each other cry sometimes and sort of trying out ideas. It's so intoxicatingly good fun. There's lots of great things about writing novels, but being in a writer's room with other people is pretty hard to beat.
So, of course, with the pandemic, we can't necessarily get into a room with other writers and have that sort of creative process happening. But again, you're also involved with other types of writing, such as novel writing and so on. So how has that changed how you approach your writing process, that you can't necessarily bounce off ideas in a live environment at the moment?
Yes. So I'm still doing writers' rooms online with people. But it's, of course, nowhere near as fun, and it's quite tricky in its way. But I would say those of us who are writers, we're match fit for lockdown, aren't we? I mean, I'm used to spending my days in Ugg boots and tracky dacks, slopping around the house, talking to myself, creating my own schedule. So I feel like we were built for a pandemic. The thing I suppose I miss is going out into the world and talking to people for something I might be researching. I miss that a lot, and I'm looking forward to having that chance again.
Absolutely. I do remember one writer's course I went to, they made us sit out in a mall and just take notes of what people were saying as they walked past to spark ideas. So yeah, I absolutely know what you mean about that one. So let's move on to The Family Doctor, your latest novel. Now, there's some really complex and emotional issues across domestic violence and revenge, but there's also a really heartfelt tribute to female friendship contained within that book. So can you tell us how you approached putting that whole novel together and those themes that you explored?
Well, the spark for the novel came from the anger and the despair that I feel about opening the newspaper and seeing yet another murder of women, and often children as well. And I think everyone would share that. And I didn't know how I could write about that without it being obvious or just too terrible to bear. But then I found a way to harness the anger that I feel with other positive, nourishing forces in the world, like the urge to protect people and the power of female friendship. So it was only when I kind of welded those two things together that I could come up with a story. And I see the story as a kind of transgressive daydream, taking those strong feelings that we all have and funneling them into the fantasy of, what if we just killed a few of those bastards before they had a chance to hurt anybody? I'm not, I hasten to add, recommending murder as a solution to the problem, but I think there's something cathartic and interesting about trying to express the intensity of the feelings that so many of us have by pushing a character over the line.
Absolutely. Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head when you talked about a fantasy. I think that's one thing that's really great about crime fiction, is we can actually act out those fantasies without getting arrested, which is quite wonderful.
Yes.
So all the incidents and the characters, particularly now, I think they're really well developed. Is there anyone in particular that you base them on, that you can name without defaming them, of course?
My sister is a GP, so she's not the character of Paula, and she wants me to say in every public forum that she has not killed her patients.
I'm glad she's pre-qualified that.
But I suppose I drew a little bit on my awareness of her many years as a GP, the way a sort of caring family doctor feels responsible for their patients, you know, little kids that they've perhaps cared for since they were tiny babies, and how you would feel if you knew that one of those children was in danger. So I drew on my sister's experience as a GP. Anita is probably the Paula is the doctor, and Anita is her best friend, who is a court journalist. Yeah. And I guess in some ways she's me, but I have journalist friends, so I went and spoke to lots of journalists and lawyers and coroners. So I kind of, you know, like all writers, I sort of take little bits from lots of people.
Fantastic. Now, speaking of taking little bits and that being based on yourself, now Anita develops quite the romance with the policeman, which is absolutely lovely. And as you mentioned, a sort of counterbalance. Do you think that's something really important to include in these kind of novels that do address tough issues, is to just have a little bit of heart and love in them as well?
Sure. I mean, it's partly just to make it a bearable read, but also at a sort of deeper, more meaningful level. I wanted the world of the book to include the possibility of a respectful, loving and sexy relationship between a man and a woman. I mean, I don't, even though I'm quite angry at certain men, I don't hate men. I've chosen to live with one for 40 years. I've given birth to two. My new grandson happens to be the most beautiful human on the planet. So I've got nothing against men. So it was really important to me that, well, I have got something against men actually, but generally I like some of them. So it was very important to me that the world of the book include, I mean, he's a major character. He's the police detective who ends up in a relationship with Anita. He's a good, caring, thoughtful man. But there's other good men in the book too. So I didn't want it to be some sort of terrible misandrist story.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think bringing up the good men in that book, there's also a very good man who acts as a witness for his friend in his friend's potential murder trial as well.
Oh my God, that's the bit that even makes me cry every time I read it. It just gets me. Isn't it funny how often it's the kind moment that undoes you in a book or in life? Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think it's just lovely that you've brought in some really well-meaning men, and men who actually have other people's backs, which doesn't always happen in crime fiction, unfortunately. I think you've done it beautifully, so thank you. Now, after reading the book, I actually went back and read the first paragraph again, and I'm not sure if this was deliberate on your part or not, but I think you've encapsulated almost the entire novel with these first few lines, and I'm just going to read them. So if anyone who hasn't read the book, this will entice you to read the book, I can guarantee you. Bodies are vulnerable parcels. So much soft tissue held in place by bone and skin. Walking around in them is a precarious business, considering their delicate physiological systems, prone to self-inflicted damage, susceptible to blows from the outside world and blows from other people. Not to mention the risk that the body could betray from within, suddenly and unpredictably. So I think for me, what you've done there is you've encapsulated the whole thing, because there's so many instances of physical bodily harm being caused throughout the book, but also the internal risk that the characters open themselves up to, both negative, as Paula's moral compass has gone off the rails completely, as well as positive in Anita opening herself up to that love affair. So aside from those sort of two dichotomies, what other messages would you like the readers to take away from the book? I
hope the book, like almost with all my work, not just this one, I guess I'm trying to talk honestly about pain and also remind us what's precious. So this book digs into the pain of the violence against women and children and the sort of trap of coercive control, but it's also about the drive to rescue people and the power of people to survive that and to help each other. And I guess the other thing I hope that people will be captured by the moral dilemmas in the book. I mean, even if you don't agree with what Paula does, which is very extreme, I hope that a reader will understand why she does it. At each point where she makes a choice, I hope that you are with her enough that you think, don't do this, Paula, this is a mistake, but I understand why you're doing it. So, I don't write about psychopaths. It's not particularly what I think I'm good at. I like to write about people like you and me, pushed into an extreme situation, traumatized, faced with a moral dilemma, and then the consequences of that, how afraid you would be, the remorse that you would feel, the sense that your world and your sense of who you are is unraveling. I mean, it's a book about this woman unraveling as much as it is about the crimes.
Absolutely. And do you think that there is an element of revenge there, but it doesn't quite reach the entirely satisfying ending that some perhaps would like? So do you think that there should always be that element of it's almost not resolved? She gets some kind of revenge, but she's punished for it in the end, I guess. So,
well, I would argue that she doesn't want revenge. She's only interested in what Anita jokingly calls preventative murder.
Of course, being a doctor, preventative measures.
Once somebody's, you know, she as long as somebody's away and in jail and not going to hurt anybody, that's fine. Paula's only interested in stopping someone being killed, stopping a woman and children being killed. So she's not interested in revenge. It's not a revenge story. I mean, having said that, I think part of the satisfaction I hope for a reader is the satisfaction of seeing a dreadful person get their comeuppance. The ending was very morally delicate, and I don't know if I got it right. Some people think I did, some people don't think I did. The ending is, I really didn't want the powerful women in the book to get killed. I'm so sick of books where all the women get punished for being powerful by getting killed.
Yes.
So as a matter of principle, I didn't want that. I also wanted them to be able to go on in other stories after this book finishes.
Do I sense a sequel in the air then?
Maybe. Or a television series with a second series, you know, so we'll see.
If you were to have to, because I assume that a lot of some of your work would have been adapting other people's written work for the screen. So is that something that you would look at to adapt?
Adapting this for the screen, absolutely. There's already a pilot script, and, you know, who knows? You know, getting something made is very hard, but, you know, I'm hopeful.
Of course, but of course you also know the mechanics behind it, being involved in the industry for such a long time. So now we have explored some fairly heavy themes from your latest book, but before we move on to the actual awards, I'd just like to end our discussion on a bit of a lighter note with this question. So you've been writing for over 40 years. Clearly you started as a toddler.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. So of all the characters you've created over that time, who would you take with you to rob a bank and why?
Who would I take with me to rob a bank? Maybe I would take Patrick from Offspring, Matt Lenever's, and just send him into the room, and he would distract everyone with good looks. And that when I could just quietly go in the back and take the money.
How wonderful. I love it. I think that may be the best answer I've had to that question yet. Thank you, Debra.
Good.
So thank you so much for that insight into the writing process. So we'll now start the more formal parts of the proceedings, and we'll announce the 21st Annual Davitt Awards winners. So back in 2001, when the awards started, there were just 7 books in contention, although back then the awards didn't include true crime or what we now call non-fiction. This year, an incredible 127 books have been battling it out for the honours, with 47 of these being debut novels. And for the maths nerds of you out there, that works out to just over 1/3 of entrants. The crime and mystery genre is hugely popular, as we all know, and it allows writers to explore so many different issues, as well as many different time periods. So it's hardly surprising that so many authors choose this fertile ground to draw upon for their stories. Whether it's the illegal wildlife trade, sex trafficking, evil twin sisters, or baby farming, women crime writers write stories that thrill, entertain, subvert, and inspire. Their stories, which often feature female kick-ass heroes, find a ready audience among women, and women, of course, making up the majority of book buyers and book club members. The crime books on this year's list are also notable for their striking evocations of place and time. Sadly, travel's been impossible for many of us lately, so it's been a real treat to be transported around the world and throughout time by our authors this year. Everywhere from the heat of wartime Brisbane and the frigidity of the snowy mountains to the tropical waters off the islands of Fiji and the stunning coast of France. We're particularly thrilled with the knowledge that the Davitts often a springboard to international success for Australian women writers, with authors going on to win major awards overseas, as well as having their work translated to the big and small screens. The Drive, the Eric Bana film based on Jane Harper's 2017 Davitt winning novel, has been one of the highest grossing Australian films ever made. Nine Perfect Strangers is based on the novel by Leanne Moriarty, who won a Davitt for Big Little Lies. It's now streaming on Amazon Prime. Another Davitt-winning book, The Ruin, by Dervla McTiernan, is being made into a film by Colin Farrell. So for those of us in lockdown, please rest assured there is plenty to keep you occupied at the moment. We'll now hear from Philomena Horsley, who is this year's Judges Coordinator.
Greetings, sisters in crime and brothers-in-law. I'm speaking to you from Carlisle River in southwest Victoria in lockdown. Yet again, it's a virtual good evening for these Davitt Awards. I'm Philomena Horsley, Judges Facilitator for the 2021 Davitt Awards. I'd like to thank my fellow judges, Morag Kisler, Joy Lawn, Janice Simpson, Emily Webb, and Tara Mitchell for their commitment and their perseverance. We've read through lockdown, release, and lockdown again. Judges have wrangled work commitments, homeschooling, isolation, and family responsibilities to tackle the 127 crime books submitted for this year's 21st Davitt Awards. However, it was an absolute pleasure to read and discuss good books together. Every category provided a challenge as we debated the merits of plot, characterisation, setting and style. Some books blew us away from the beginning, others grew in our estimation as they unfolded. We thank every author and publisher who submitted books. We particularly acknowledge publishers who supported the many debut authors on this year's list. It's very evident that Australian female crime writing is in superb health. This year, both the young adult and the children's shortlist were especially rewarding. They showcased impressive research or true stories, complex themes, skill and creativity. However, of all the books we read, the winner of the children's category stood out for the judges. Yet again, the fiction shortlist was extremely diverse and sparkling with talent. We also commend the debut shortlist to all. It holds the works of authors that we hope will keep writing. Congratulations to the winners and to all authors on the long list. Thank you. In these turbulent times, we need books that can distract us, transport us, and provide moments of great pleasure.
Thank you, Philomena, and thank you to all the judges for their hard work this year. First up, we'll announce the winner of the Davitt for Best Non-Fiction Crime Book. 11 books competed this year for this award, with 5 of those shortlisted.
And it is my great pleasure to announce that the winner of the Davitt for Best Non-Fiction Crime Book is Louise Milligan for Witness, an investigation into the brutal cost of seeking justice, published by Hachette Australia. Louise Milligan is also the author of Cardinal, The Rise and Fall of George Pell. Her work in Cardinal led to Louise being a witness in the commissional proceeding of Cardinal George Pell, and that experience is documented in Witness, along with the accounts of complainants of sexual crimes who also became witnesses in trials. As an investigative reporter with the ABC TV Four Corners program, Louise was finishing Witness as she began investigating complaints against politicians that resulted in her Four Corners stories Inside the Canberra Bubble and Bursting the Canberra Bubble. Louise has reported on the law and crime since the start of her career. Her Four Corners story about sexual assault complainant Saxon Mullins, I Am That Girl, also documented in Witness, led to reforms of New South Wales consent laws. Both her books and her television reporting have won Louise many awards over the years, including 3 Walkleys, 6 Quill Awards, including the Golden Quill, the highest honour in Victorian journalism. Louise was also awarded the 2019 Press Freedom Medal.
The judges reported, Witness by Louise Milligan is a book for our times and one that has the capacity to make a difference in how witnesses in sexual assault cases are treated by the justice system. Milligan, in her compilation of witness accounts, strips bare the injustices, the sexism, the callousness and the cruelty meted out by our adversarial legal system to witnesses who have been sexually abused and assaulted and then re-traumatised by the system through which they seek redress. And she's not shied away from seeking the views of legal professionals as to how this defective system still persists in this day and age, nor the challenging work of candidly recounting those views. Tightly written, personal and political, an exceptional book. Let's hear from Louise Milligan.
I just want to say thank you so much to the Sisters in Crime for this award. It means an awful lot to me. Witness was a passion project for me. It was something that I felt I had to write. You know, I didn't have any choice but to write it because I felt politicised by what I had experienced myself in being a witness in a very high profile trial, but also in bearing witness to other people's complaints of sexual crimes and how they experienced the criminal justice system. Those stories are, you know, forever imprinted on my brain. I waded through several years of misery, to be honest. But the reason I wrote this book is because I really think that there ought to be change. And I think that there's a backlash that is going on at the moment in terms of women making these complaints and in terms of the people who tell their stories. And that includes myself. It's been a really, really testing year. Women marched the streets, and I'm not sure how any of us feel about whether that message was heard by those in power. So it's great at times like this to have a sisterhood, to have the Sisters in Crime, but sisters across the nation more generally. All the sisters in the law who have contacted me, hundreds of them, all the sisters who are survivors of sexual crimes, all the sisters who are journalists, and just all the sisters who care about justice. I'm so proud and I'm so thankful to everyone who put themselves on the line for me, whether that be survivors or lawyers or other people who helped me. I'm very, very thankful to all of the wonderful women, in particular at Hachette, who made this book happen, most particularly my darling publisher, the other Louise Adler. And I just hope that people read the book because I just want them to hear this message. I want there to be change because some of the people that I speak to years and years down the track are still recovering from the process as opposed to the crime. The crime was bad, but the process was so re-traumatizing. And we have to do better by them, you know? We have to listen to them. And we have to look at, I think, the very gendered nature of our criminal justice system and of the way that we still view these crimes, of the suspicion that we still hold. Beyond reasonable doubt is very important. The presumption of innocence is very important. But that doesn't mean that the people who come before the courts to make complaints should be thrown under the bus in the process. So thank you again. I'm working all the crazy, crazy hours at the moment on a Four Corners story. And, you know, it's a great pleasure to be here, to have a glass of wine with all of you. And thank you.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you for pouring your heart and soul into this book and also being a voice for those who may not necessarily have a voice out in the wider world. So thank you. We'll now announce the winner of the Best Children's Crime Novel. This year, 15 crime books competed for this award and 6 of those were shortlisted.
Highly commended is Sue Whiting's The Book of Chance, Walker Books, Australia. Sue Whiting is a children's author and editor. Sue writes books for all ages, including the best-selling Missing and the award-winning A Swim in the Sea. As a storyteller and schools performer, Sue has informed, inspired and entertained thousands of kids across the country. Her latest contemporary mystery novel for readers 10 and over, The Book of Chance, has recently been shortlisted for the 2021 CBCA Book of the Year Awards.
This is what the judges said. The Book of Chance by Sue Whiting is for readers aged about 10 to 14 years and is a fictional retelling of a true crime committed in 1998 and finally solved in 2017. It begins in the present with Chance Callaghan at Wollongong Police Station after discovering that her whole life is based on a lie. The structurally arresting narrative builds tension and suspense through a ticking clock countdown and cliffhangers, then cuts to 37 days earlier when a knock at the door precipitates the collapse of Chance's family life. These events are mirrored by her mama's journal, the other book of Chance, which seems to tell the truth, but is it the whole truth? Now let's hear from Sue Whiting.
Thank you so much, Tara and Debra. I am beyond thrilled to be highly commended for the 2021 Davitt Awards. The Book of Chance was inspired by a true crime that took place in 1998 but wasn't solved until 2017. And when the story unfolded on the world media, I became really obsessed and very interested in particular with the teen girl who was the victim of the crime, who was about to discover that her whole world, her whole life had been a lie. That wonderment about that particular character led to me developing my own character, Chance Callaghan, and subsequently the Book of Chance. I'd like to thank my agent, Pippa Masson from Curtis Brown, and my publisher, Lindsay Knight from Walker Books Australia, as well as my editor, Nikki Foreman, who challenged me right through every step of the way. And finally, an enormous thank you to the judges and to the Sisters in Crime for all they do to support women crime writers. I'm very proud to be recognised by this particular sisterhood. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
And the Davitt for the best children's crime novel goes to Leon Tanner for A Clue for Clara, Allen and Unwin Children's. Leon Taylor is the best-selling author of 3 fantasy trilogies for children: the Keepers Trilogy, the Hidden series, and the Rogues Trilogy. Her books have been translated into 11 languages and have won 2 Aurealis Awards for Best Australian Children's Fantasy. Her first picture book, Ella and the Ocean, illustrated by Jonathan Bentley, won the 2020 New South Wales Premier's Award for Children's Literature. Leon's first detective novel, A Clue for Clara, will be followed up in 2022 by a companion book, Rita's Revenge.
And this is what the judges had to say. Clara is a small scruffy chook who is tormented by the rooster and the other hens. She escapes by watching a girl detective on TV and sees herself as a fellow crime solver. She can't speak human, but writes a letter that there is an egg thief in the area. Chased by her flock, she hides in Olive and her policeman's father's car to make her escape. They are grieving the death of Olive's mother and also being bullied in different ways. Clara and Olive's meeting is the beginning of not only a crime-fighting partnership, but a fun, affirming and healing friendship for both. Conventions from crime novels such as Clues, The Sidekick, Going Undercover, The Setup and The Chase are incorporated with plenty of foul gags along the way. Over to you, Leanne.
Thank you, Tara and Debra. I am so very, very pleased about this. A huge thank you to the judges for picking my little chook out of the shortlist and making her a prize winner. I love crime mysteries. I've read crime novels for as long as I can remember, but this is the first one I've written. And for that, I owe a great debt of gratitude to my 3 late chooks, Dolly, Floss, and Clara, who were both the inspiration for this book and my primary research subjects. I also owe a debt of gratitude to the following people: Cheryl Orsini for the gorgeous illustrations that bring Clara and her friends to life. Both Cheryl and designer Hannah Jansen for the glorious cover. My agent, Margaret Connolly, who championed this book from the first day I said to her, "So Margaret, I'm thinking about a story about a chook who wants to be a detective, right?" My publisher at Allen and Unwin, Anna McFarlane, who read some of the early chapters and said, "I don't think the diary format is going to hold the whole way through. I think you're going to have to bring in Ollie's point of view at some stage." Yes, totally, I agree. I said, while secretly thinking, no, she's completely wrong. But of course she was right. My editor, Kate Whitfield, who is also usually right, even though I swear a lot when I get her notes. And Peter Matheson, who has been my first reader for so many years. Thank you, all of you. And now an extra big thank you to Sisters in Crime, both for promoting and championing women's crime writing with such passion and commitment, and also for this beautiful award. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leanne, and congratulations. And just on a personal note, I wanted to thank you for writing a book that literally made us judges laugh out loud, which doesn't happen all that often with crime books. So thank
Good.
you.
I'm so pleased. Thank you.
So we'll now announce the winner of the Best Young Adult Crime Novel. There were 9 young adult crime books in contention this year, with 5 of those shortlisted.
The winner of the Davitt for Best Young Adult Crime Book is Christy Neiman for her debut crime book, Where We Begin, Pan Macmillan, Australia. Christy Neiman is an author, essayist, anthology editor, parent, sometimes playwright and librarian. Her fiction has been described as Australian contemporary Gothic, and whether novel, short fiction, play, essay, prose, poem or rant, Christy's work tends to concern itself with women and bodies and human relationships with the environment. She's a Doctor of Creative Literatures and Eco-Criticism, and she has been delighted to be able to extend a publishing platform to other Australian women and non-binary writers as a commissioning editor of feminist anthologies, most recently 2019's Me Too, Stories from the Australian Movement. Where We Begin is her second novel and is set on Dja Dja Wurrung country, where she works and writes and lives with her husband and 2 kids, a host of wild birds and 2 very fluffy chooks.
Chooks seem to be a most excellent writing companion for our authors, I think. Now for the judges' report. Where We Begin opens on an arresting scene. A smart young woman travelling alone on a bus through an isolated area. She's running away from home and towards grandparents she's never actually met. But why? Tension builds as the plot unfolds. Amidst this seclusion, the long ago and recent histories of people and place start to mesh. Through her vividly written characters, the author skillfully introduces themes of family violence, teenage pregnancy, entrenched racism, and family secrets. Then she weaves them into a more complex story of loss and love, beauty and horror. An outstanding work by a talented author. Let's now hear from Christy.
Thank you, Tara and Deborah. I am so thrilled for this beautiful, beautiful award. I owe nearly everything wonderful in my career to women, from my mother, the theatre director, to my awesome writing group, and the day we decided that we should make a feminist anthology about the real experience of female friendship, that real love and heartbreak, rather than the 2-dimensional things we get sold all the time. And the amazing Ingrid Olsen at Pan Macmillan swooped down and picked it up and gave me my first publishing break. And then to Claire Craig at Pan Macmillan, championing my first novel through to publication, to Matilda Imler handing us the platform for our most recent anthology on Me Too, giving us the opportunity to lift up the voices of diverse women and non-binary writers along with us. To all the women who supported me in my battle to get Where We Begin written, whilst my husband and I were caring for twin toddlers. So there have been women every step of the way. And I've been plugging away at this career now for 20 years, and my writing has been longlisted and shortlisted for various things. And this book itself has been shortlisted for 2 Premier's Awards and it received a CBA Honour Book. But this is actually the first thing I have ever actually won for my writing. And I'm so thrilled and so excited for my first win to be awarded to me by this bunch of incredible women whose interest is in lifting women's writing and paying attention to women who are writing the darkness of the world out into the open when so much crime is men's crime. A group that wish to elevate women's voices in this area. Well, for myself to be lifted and recognised by Sisters in Crime, how absolutely bloody wonderful. And to get a trophy too. So, oh my giddy heart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Christy, and congratulations. That is such a wonderful story. Thank you. So we'll now announce the winner of the Best Debut Crime Novel. The judges shortlisted 12 books for this award from 47 debut books across all 4 categories.
And the winner is Leah Swan for Shearwater, published by 4th Estate, an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers Australia. Leah Swan is the author of 4 books, including Shearwater, the short story collection Bearings, and the fantasy series Arena, the Trilogy. Her short fiction and poetry have been published in literary magazines and anthologies, and she works as a journalist, media advisor, and speechwriter. Shearwater is her debut crime novel. Leah lives in Melbourne with her family.
The judges said, Ava and her 2 young sons, Max and Teddy, are heading into a new life in a small town called Shearwater. Ava has just left her husband, Lawrence, and there's a sense of tension with Ava already looking over her shoulder. Then a light plane crashes in a field alongside the road, and Ava is compelled to help. She leaves her boys in the car, but when she returns, the boys are gone. Ava suspects that Lawrence has taken them, but how? He has a solid alibi, and the police appear sceptical of her story. The dread builds as we discover more about Ava, Lawrence, and their relationship through the voices of multiple characters, including eldest son Max. Swan's writing is subtle, which makes the narrative developments even more frightening. The finale leaves readers in a dark, ambiguous place and sparked questions amongst the judges. Shearwater is a standout, and we look forward to reading more from Leah Swan. Over to you, Leah.
Thank you so much for this gorgeous award. I am thrilled and a bit surprised to win this. Surprised because the other people on the shortlist were absolutely outstanding. And when I first saw the list, I thought, you do not have a snowflake's chance in hell of winning this. And thrilled because, as every writer knows, to win an award like this, a Davitt Award, is just gold. Writing Shearwater was a bit of a scary ride. It's about coercion and fear. And there were many times when I just felt, I don't know if this will ever come together as an exciting story. And it got rewritten many times. So when you receive an award like this, it is a signal really that, yes, you have succeeded in making something that can take readers into another world. And we need those worlds more than ever at the moment. We need them as comfort. We need them as relief. We need them as a chance to release strong emotion. Really, you know, as we're all in lockdown, we need them as a form of freedom. So thank you so much to Carmel and Sisters in Crime and everyone behind the scenes. Thank you to the amazing judging panel, the Davitt judging panel, which really had their work cut out for them with a shortlist like that. Thank you to my agent, Gabby Nayer, without whom none of this would have happened. Thanks to the extraordinary Catherine Milne, and the whole team at HarperCollins, and Hazel Lamb, who designed the beautiful cover. Thanks also to my extended family and friends for your ongoing support, to the first readers, Marguerite, Ruby and Ray, who pushed me to make some more daring choices than initially. And finally, to my beautiful kids, Amos and Brigida, who are so enthusiastic and supportive all the time, and my husband, John. Thank you so much, Sisters in Crime, for what you do in supporting women's writing, and thank you again for this. It's really wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah, and congratulations. We now come to the part where we present the Davitt Reader's Choice Award. This one was judged by 500 members of Sisters in Crime. So this is a very special award that's judged by readers rather than judges. So for this one, all 127 on the long list were eligible. And I will hand over to Deb to announce this one.
Well, the winner is Catherine Kovacic for The Shifting Landscape, Alex Clayton, volume number 3, published by Echo Publishing and imprint of Bonnier Books, UK. Catherine Kovacic is a former veterinarian turned art historian. Her debut book, The Portrait of Molly Dean, was shortlisted for a Ned Kelly Award and became the first of 3 books in the Alex Clayton Art Mystery Series. Catherine's true crime book, The Schoolgirl Strangler, was published in January 2021. It delves into the shocking story of a serial killer at large in 1930s Melbourne. Catherine also had the honour of novelising Every Cloud Productions' Ms. Fisher's Modern Murder Mysteries, bringing the character of Peregrine Fisher from screen to page. Just Murdered, Peregrine's debut adventure, was released at the beginning of August.
It's now over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Debra and Tara. What an honour. Can't tell you how delighted I am to have won the Davitt Reader's Choice Award. Tara, you've been mentioning that 20 years ago, wow, way back in 2001, Sisters in Crime staged the first She Kilda crime convention at St Kilda Town Hall. And I wasn't writing then, but I was lucky enough to attend a couple of the sessions. And it was just so exciting to find that there were other people who were excited about women writing crime, and particularly Australian women writing crime. We've covered a lot of ground since then, and the world is a very different place. But the sisters continue to throw their wholehearted support behind Australian women crime writers. And they welcome newbies into the fold with a secret handshake and a password to the upstairs room at the Rising Sun Hotel, something like that anyway. But winning the Reader's Choice Award is a special thrill, because it's the readers who make what we do worthwhile and rewarding. And this year's list, with all those books on it, such an incredible list, it's just made it even more of a thrill to know that people are embracing your stories and liking your characters. And it's just really heartening, given what a solitary pursuit writing can be, and has been, particularly in the last year or so. So thank you so much to everyone who voted for The Shifting Landscape. In my many moments of self-doubt, this award is going to keep me writing. Thank you to all the amazing booksellers who support all of us, and to my mum and dad, two of the finest people I know. Thank you, of course, to Sisters in Crime. I wouldn't be here today without you, and you continue to support Australian women crime writers so heartily, and lift us all up and give us just such a great community to work in. And I can't wait to see you all again in the flesh at the Rising Sun Hotel.
Thank you, Catherine. We can't wait to get people back together too. So I'm very much looking forward to that as well. So congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to the award for the Davitt Best Adult Novel. This year, a record 92 novels competed for the award, which sounds like a lot of books. And as a judge this year, I can confirm this is a lot of books to read. However, it speaks to the sheer volume of talent and hard work that's present in Australian women's crime writing at the moment. 9 of the 92 books entered were shortlisted.
And the winner of the 2021 Davitt Award for Best Adult Crime Novel is Sally Hepworth for The Good Sister, Pan Macmillan, Australia. Sally Hepworth is the New York Times best-selling author of 6 novels, most recently The Good Sister, published in 2020, which was an instant bestseller. Her novel Mother-in-Law, 2019, has been optioned for a TV series by Hollywood actress and producer Amy Poehler. Drawing on the good, the bad, and the downright odd of human behaviour, Sally writes incisively about family, relationships, and identity. Her domestic thriller novels are laced with quirky humour, sass, and a darkly charming tone. Sally's novels are available worldwide in English and have been translated into 20 languages.
And here's what the judges reported. Fern Castle works at the local library. She cannot abide crowds, loud noises, or bright lights. She and her twin sister, Rose, meet for dinner 3 nights a week, and their shared history is meticulously documented in Rose's diary. When Fern discovers Rose is unable to have children, she sets out to repay her sister's kindness. Easy, right? Find a father. But Fern's quest unearths deadly secrets and disrupts her painstakingly ordered life. The Good Sister, although a domestic suspense novel, is quirky and heartwarming. Judges were enchanted by Fern's captivating and often comic voice. They're also refreshed to find in Fern's boyfriend, Wally, a truly decent man, often missing in crime novels, with a bizarre history. The Good Sister is bursting with surprising twists and laced with a sinister undercurrent. It's a novel of unforeseen love, betrayal, and danger, which concludes with a satisfying and rewarding ending. Judges enjoyed the journey. And now let's hear from Sally Hepworth herself.
Thank you, Tara and Debra, and thank you all, especially the judges, for this huge honour. I'd like to thank the Sisters in Crime not only for this award, but also for the great work that they do in celebrating Australian female crime writers. If I'm perfectly honest, it's still a surprise to me that I write crime. I always start out with a happy, uplifting premise, and before long, I'm Googling the best instruments with which to bludgeon someone to death. That said, I like to think that there is a market for happy, uplifting books that include a little bludgeoning. I'm particularly thrilled that The Good Sister and its heroine Fern, an autistic woman, has reached the hearts of so many. As a proud mother of an autistic child and a member of a wider neurodiverse family, it is my sincere hope that The Good Sister will play a small part in an increased understanding for and celebration of autistic people. To the other winners and shortlisted authors, my heartfelt congratulations. To be considered among such fierce female Australian talent is really one of the great honours of my life. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sally, and many congratulations to you. That is the last award for this evening, so I'd now like to invite all of our authors to join us on the screen. A massive congratulations to you all, and thank you for all your hard work you've put into your writing, providing us as readers with entertaining, thought-provoking and captivating books this year. It's a shame the pandemic means we couldn't celebrate in the flesh, but at least this will be on the Sisters in Crime YouTube channel in perpetuity, so anyone from anywhere in the world can view the ceremony. And of course, we've had the absolute pleasure of Debra Oswald's company tonight. So let's raise a glass to everyone, to each other, to the Davitts and the glories of women's crime writing. Now, before we go, we do have one or two more things before we finish up for the night. The traditional Sisters in Crime raffle. Each winner will receive a pack of books worth around about $250, which includes all of the Davitt winners, plus a copy of Deb's incredible book, The Family Doctor. So Deb, could I please ask you to choose 3 numbers between 22 and 57?
All right. It's my birthday next week on the 30th, so let's go with 30.
30. So congratulations to Michael Potter.
35.
35. Congratulations to Pam Cunningham.
I feel my power. Writers don't often feel their power, but I'm a little bit giddy with it.
You feel like you're drawing lotto numbers. You have the power over people's luck tonight.
Let's go with 52.
52 is congratulations to Daryl Pitt. So to finish off, I'd just like to thank the judges, Catherine Lamont for her work on the video, Carolyn Beasley, the Davitt sponsor, the trophy designer and trophy maker, Simon Rangels, of course, all the publishers and authors, and Sisters in Crime conveners and members. You can buy all of the books we've featured tonight from the Sun Bookshop, our long-term supporters. A special thanks to Debra Oswald for making the 21st Davitt Awards so memorable tonight. So
thank you for having me. I feel very privileged. So thank you.
I actually almost, as I said, there's always a silver lining to the pandemic, and the fact that we can have you here and promote your book, even though we can't promote it in person, we can make sure everyone goes out and grabs a copy of that as well. So stay safe, everyone, and keep on reading.